Right, so this is it's just another one. I keep doing all these crazy ideas, but hopefully we'll stick with this one. I just thought so a while ago we actually did a kind of like a bundle of DVDs that we'd bought. It didn't really work. The trouble with these videos is you don't want to go on too long, talk for too long. You can get boring, and you got to edit it down. It's crazy. So we're kind of just going to maybe try and do the odd one DVD review. You did Threads actually a couple of days ago, which was a follow up to our big Threads video that's had all its views. So I've got one this week, and this one's quite special to me. So I've gone for this one that came out. The BFI released this a couple of weeks ago. As you can see that the light's kind of catching it. It's called Red, White, and Zero, and so this is part of BFI's Flipside series, which is a really good series that they release kind of obscure and unknown films or films, especially films that came out in the 60s, 70s in Britain. A lot of them were a little bit odd. We've got a few surreal and kind of avant-garde films that came out. And of course they didn't get, I mean they may have got a showing in the cinema back then, but they certainly didn't come out onto home video in the 80s or anything like that. So a lot of them have kind of fallen by the wayside. And this one came out, I think it was last week it came out, I pre-ordered it. It's called Red, White and Zero, and I won't talk too much in depth about the films, I'll give you a basic thing. So it was a project, it was 3 short films, one very short film and 2 slightly longer ones by Lindsay Anderson. Famous director made If, which was a great film by Malcolm McDowell.
Yep.
And This Sporting Life with Richard Harris and a few other films. Very, big British filmmaking name. So he put this project together and he made the film on here, which is the white part of it, called The White Bus. And there were 2 other directors. There's Tony Richardson. He made the red part of it, which is a film called Red and Blue, which is a very strange musical starring, kind of a subversive musical starring Vanessa Redgrave. Tony Richardson, again, he made The Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner and, lots of films. The New Hampshire Hotel was one of his. The Border with Jack Nicholson's a really great film. And then the third film, which is the shortest on here, which is The Ride of the Valkyrie, was actually on here, it's known as Zero, because it stars Zero Mostel. And that's the film that I'm most excited about for this release. So I don't know if you saw our video, The Bed Sitting Room. That film, I spoke about because it's got my granddad in. So in that film, the BBC, it's played by my late granddad, Frank Thornton, and he's in this short film with Zero Mostel. And for me, it's like amazing because so when my granddad died, I was kind of researching all the films and things he did because obviously my granddad's famous for Are You Being Served and Last of the Summer Wine in this country. But before he got into that, he did a lot of kind of bit roles. He was in quite a few like TV shows and quite a few films actually in the 60s, 50s and 60s. But obviously there were quite a few things that were either deleted by the BBC and a few films that because they were so like unknown, they've never been released. No. And so when I saw this came up on my, I'm a subscriber of BFI's newsletter, this popped up, I was like, oh my God. Totally blew me away. And so I had to get my hands on this one. I haven't yet watched the red and the white part of it. So the White Bus actually did have a theatrical release. I don't know if the other 2 have ever had releases. No, I don't know. But so I really wanted to pick it up for that reason. I've watched that one. It's very funny. My granddad's like... So the film is basically Zero Mostel plays an opera singer and he arrives at Heathrow Airport and he has to get to the English National Opera or the Royal Opera House in London. And of course he's late. So he has to get right from Heathrow to London, centre of London, in 15 minutes. And my granddad plays the chauffeur that picks him up from the airport, and then takes him on this kind of mad, zany rush across London. And the film's silent. I mean, it's got music on there and sound effects. It's very funny, actually. It's very in that kind of that old silent black and white slapstick kind of humour. It was a bit surreal. That was directed by Peter Brook, who was mostly famous as being a theatre director. But he made the original Lord of the Flies, actually.
Oh, right, yeah.
So
the one we were made to watch at school.
The one we were made to watch at school, exactly. And he did a few other films in his career, but he's mostly famous for being a theatre and I think an opera director as well. But also what's interesting about that film is got Zero Mostel. And obviously we spoke about The Chase,
yes,
our first video, which keeps coming up a few times, I think. We keep mentioning it. But that had...
Josh Mostel.
Josh Mostel.
His son.
Who is Zero Mostel's son. And it's actually quite amusing. So when my granddad died... we found all these diaries that he wrote, and he wrote about filming this film, and they went out onto the streets of London without any permits, or any permission. And at one point, I'm not sure which road they were on, but they got pulled over by the police because apparently my granddad was having to drive like really crazy in and out of traffic and too fast. They got pulled over by the police. My granddad was like terrified because he thought, oh my God, my license is going to be revoked and everything. But it's quite interesting that that's what happened in The Chase.
Yeah, they
as well.
they didn't have permission
They
to
didn't
film.
have any permission to film it, so there's a nice little odd link back to The Chase there. Yeah, so it's as always the BFI, and like with many of these places, Arrow and all, they put out these nice discs. There's quite a few nice documentaries on here. There's a few like cleaned up interviews from like making of. Not of the short one, it's mostly of the White Bus and Red and Blue and those films. In fact, most of the stuff on here is about the two longer films. There's not really anything about that film, which is a shame. It would have been nice to see a few stills of it. But, you know, I'm happy because I've now got to see that one. And there's a few other films out there of my granddad's that would be nice to see the light of day. There's actually one called The Boundary, which I know the BFI have in their archive. So if you're watching... Flipside, The Boundary, written by Tom Stoppard, would be great, although I don't imagine you'll put it out just for me. So, yeah, doesn't matter.
Burn a disc just for you.
Just for me, that would be awesome, yeah. Anyway, so that's just that. You know, if you like strange and quirky, obscure old British cinema, then give this one a watch. I recommend it. I've yet to watch the other two. I will go and watch those soon. But, yeah, it's a really nice collection. There's a really nice Blu-ray, and there's a nice booklet in there as well with some... really written things. He can't say anything because he hasn't seen it, have you?
Yeah. I'll have a borrow and watch them.
Good stuff. Excellent.
So that was Red, White and Zero. Thanks for watching, and leave us a comment below if you've seen any of the short films. Don't forget to subscribe up there if you've enjoyed what you've watched. There's some other videos over there to check out. Come and see us on Twitter and Facebook, and join us again soon for another video.